Let's go to the NFC side. Of course, the Seahawks and Rams playing for the third time this season. Puka Nacua, no surprise there seeing him for $9,000. And even as more mediocre Puka had been last week, he destroyed Seattle for 300-plus yards in 2 games this year. So this is a matchup for both him and JSN where you got to pay up the big prices, followed by, of course, Kyren Williams, Matthew Stafford, and Kenneth Walker-Lawrence, who had the massive game last week.
That's another one you're going to have to pay up for. And funny enough, he's only $200 more than Ramondre Stevenson from the last game. And Ramondre Stevenson will be in the timeshare. There's no more Zach Charbonnet. So I still think that's a legit price right there. You got to feel as good about him as you do Kyren Williams, if not better, because you know for the Rams side of the ball, you're going to get some Blake Corum in there. So solid price there. But I actually like the Rams defense in this. 3 picks versus the Bears. Even though Sam Darnold lit them up the last time, 2 picks, 4 sacks. They're only $2,800. You go back to week 11 versus the Seahawks, 4 interceptions there too. So I think that's actually some value right there, the opportunistic Rams defense.
Well, at least 18 quarterback pressures in both playoffs games so far. We have seen if Sam Darnold melts down under pressure in a big playoff game, it won't be the first time. Right, and he's banged up. So I'm with you there. I'm curious. I agree. I think Ken Walker at $6,200 is just an absolutely steal of a price. In 23 career games where he's gotten at least 18 touches, including the playoffs, he's averaging over 18 fantasy points per game. Just a stat that tells you what you know, which is when he gets work, he's really awesome. No Zach Charbonnet in this one. Kenneth Walker should get a ton of work. My question to you guys is that Jackson Smith and Jigba, $8,000, had 20 or more fantasy points in both regular season games against the Rams, but quarterback is banged up. Or Puka Nacua, who's $9,000, but, has a 34% target share in the playoffs, went 12 for 225 and 2 touchdowns against these same Seahawks in week 16. So I'm curious which, you're probably only if you're constructing a roster, it's going to be hard to get both those guys in the lineup. Are you paying up the extra $1,000 for Puka, or do you rather JSN at the lower price but a little more risk?
So the one thing with Puka is that, there was no Davante Adams in that game against the Seahawks. 2, it did go to overtime. If you take overtime out, it was only like 180 yards and a touchdown. Rubbish game from Puka. But I do think I am a little concerned about Stafford, Connor, because he has not looked, to me, since the first Carolina game, he has not looked like the quarterback that he was the first 3 months of the season. I thought he was terrible against Chicago. I think he had 11 off-target throws. That's the most he's had as a Ram. He had a 42 PFF grade. He just didn't look. And the fact that they didn't throw it on 3rd and 10 at the end of the game, that showed you that McVay didn't seem to believe in his quarterback either at that point.
And you go back to the Panthers game the week before the Parkinson touchdown at the end, he was 0 for 11 throwing outside the numbers.
Yeah, so, and Parkinson had made an unbelievable catch to bring in that
great catch. Good throw, amazing catch.
To be fair to Stafford, outside non-Caleb Williams division, he did probably make the throw of the playoffs that out on the left side to Davante Adams, which no one else can do just about. But he has looked shaky. And I also wonder, the first Seahawks game, Stafford and the Rams couldn't do anything in that game. Darnold threw 4 picks, and Seattle still had the chance to walk it off. And then the second game, he had a lot more success. And so which version of the Rams offense are we going to see? I think will define the game.
Yeah, I think that's really fair.
I think if you feel like the Seahawks are going to get pressure on Matthew Stafford, then it'll probably be another one of them days. That's really what it's going to come down to, because we already know what he's going to do if you don't get pressure. He's going to pick you apart.
I do feel better about, you can pick holes in both quarterbacks. I think I do feel better about the Seahawks defense than the Rams, where you can throw on the Rams. Rams have good run defense, and they can get pressure. But if they can keep Sam Darnold upright, or if they can get rid of the ball quickly, the secondary of the Rams has struggled so far in the second half.
Yeah, it has. You can throw on the Rams. We saw with Bryce Young having success. Caleb Williams was able to move the ball outside of the turnovers. I think that the Rams' corners has always been a little bit of a shaky spot. Like your man, Emmanuel Forbes, has been a huge part of this team. And so I think Chris Schuler has largely gotten the better of Darnold in these two matchups. Yeah. He's tricked Darnold into some pretty bad picks, and so maybe having 2 games of tape now will help the Seattle coaching staff, which I think is arguably the best in the league, put Darnold in the best position to succeed. But yeah, I mean, this game is largely going to be about Stafford, but it's also going to be about just Darnold holding his nerve, which he hasn't been able to do in 8 games in the past.
I would think NBC. I'm not speaking for NBC. I've had no insight.
You can speak for him.
No. I'm not speaking for NBC.
Tweets are mine and mine only.
But these thoughts are mine and mine only. But I would think NBC would want Patriots-Rams of who's left, right? The
rematch.
McVay rematch. You know, two big markets, 2 big franchises. You know, the two MVP contenders, right? Sure. You know, going head to head.
Great match.
But I'm kind of rooting for Seattle, Denver.
Me too.
Oh man, if we get that, we're gonna have a good old time out there.
Just because it's 2 good defenses, it's 2 redemption stories, right? We've got a backup quarterback in Jarrett Stidham. We've got Sam Darnold, who for years and years bust, and then he has a magical year in Minnesota, but he can't win the big one, you know.
Shirtless Ben Johnson. This sounds like a good ambient take.
It might be.
Yeah.
I might wake up from it and go I said
well,
what?
I mean, think about it, right? We saw Baker Mayfield go to Tampa and kind of redeem his career, right? There's obviously Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Sam Darnold got a chance to be the first one from that draft class to win a Super Bowl.
That's crazy.
And he was damn near out of the league. And now he got a chance to be the first one. It's not just any draft class. You got 2 MVPs in there and the number 1 overall pick, and you're not none of that. Like, this is a shot for Sam Darnold.
And it would be one of those great stories that you can tell, you know, that you kind of point to, you know, where you sort of say, like, you know, when the first woman landed on the moon. Right, you know, you could say to little girls, like, look, if you dream it, you can be it. Like we landed a woman on the moon, right? And so that's like, listen. I know you're upset that you got drafted by the Jets, but look at what Sam Darnold did. Yeah, even though your career isn't over, even though you're a member of the Jets, you could eventually win a Super Bowl.
So there is hope.
For somewhere else.
There is hope, folks.
Yeah.
For Zach Wilson, baby.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It would
Gino's
be like
still out there.
Yeah.
Gino. Who else out there?
Yeah,
Come on, Gino.
exactly.
Gino's done.
Ken O'Brien, come on back.
Tim Boyle.
Everybody. Tim Boyle, Mike White, come get back.
Yeah, exactly. Chad Pennington, where you at?
I'm never going to forget that Jets season.
He was actually in the playoffs with the Jets.
Yeah.
Right.
That Jets season a couple of years ago, when Mike
was
White
it
got hurt,
Dolphins?
and all Jets fans are like, what are we going to do without Mike White?
Yes, because we've seen what it looks like without him.
Ironically, it was Joe Flacco who came in and did nothing.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. They think of Mark Sanchez, a chance of redemption for Mark Sanchez.
Not touching that.
Come
Let's
on.
see the props board.
I don't know about that one.
All right, Jay, look at the props board for Seahawks Rams here.
Yep.
This is like a very, as the props indicate, a very run-heavy game.
Yeah, absolutely. Matthew Stafford on the passing front, though he is the highest passing prop of any quarterback this week, 254.5. No surprise, he led the NFL in passing yards. 85.5, I think, is a little high for Ken Walker. I understand the epic game that he had, but the sneaky thing about Seattle is they haven't been a particularly efficient rushing offense this season. It's just they run a ton to establish play action off of that, and then no surprises, Puka Nacua, Jackson Smith, and Jigba both set in the 90s.
I'd want to see Ken Walker's rushing attempts number. That might be interesting there, or what his combined rushing and receiving. Otherwise, it might take just an
the attempts
all
number
line.
would be 19.
How about to say it better be 19? But what's funny is you saw the gap there between Kyron Williams and Kenneth Walker, yet Kyron Williams is a couple hundred more on the DFS. So it kind of makes you feel a little bit better about Kenneth Walker from that end, from a DFS perspective.
Is there a player in this game? Okay, so we're all going to talk about Puka. We're all going to talk about Jackson Smith and Jigba. I get that. Is there a player, Connor, a complimentary pass catcher that you think could surprise some people? Like we've seen could A.J. Barner on the Seahawks, could one of the tight ends, feels like Colby Parkinson
That's what I was
starting to come into his own on the Rams? Can we see, is it Kanata Mumfield game? You know?
Yeah.
Is Jake Bobo going to become a star?
Who do you feel like
what about Rashid Shaheed?
That's what I was thinking.
What if the Rams just say, we are, and I remember you bringing up that Brian Flores did this, like, we are not letting Jackson Smith and Jigba beat us today. We could lose this game. We're not letting them go for 110 and 2 touchdowns. Rashid Shaheed,
and guess who
if he's in any one-on-one situation, he's faster than the other guy.
Right.
Anyone basically anybody in football,
Yeah.
he's faster than the other guy. So Rashid Shaheed, because you need one play. Yeah. What if you get a 60-yard touchdown catch from Rashid Shaheed?
Yeah.
Could happen the first play.
Exactly.
The other one I think that's a little interesting. The past 2 games, Cooper Kupp has looked the best that he has all year. And so I wonder if there is an aspect of him kind of saving himself a little bit for the playoffs. Now, obviously, story writes itself. Super Bowl MVP going up against the Rams. He had the really bad fumble the second game against the Rams. But Cooper Kupp, I was expecting him to kind of recede into the back end of the season and Rashid Shaheed just to completely take over. But he's still the number 2 wide receiver on that team.
Davante Adams is somebody who'd be interesting, too. 8.3 fantasy points per game in the playoffs, 37% catch rate. He has not looked like Davante Adams since he's come back.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.